Our guests today are Tamara Denic and Christian Siee, and their short film ISTINA, a film that dives into the dangers that come with fighting for basic rights, in this case, the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. This thought-provoking short film qualified to be considered for a 2024 Academy Award through winning the Student Academy Award, making it the sixth Hamburg Media School graduation film to do so. Now, Tamara graduated from LMU in Munich before studying film directing for her master's degree at the Hamburg Media School in 2022. And as a scholarship holder of the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, she also worked as a dub recording supervisor, film and editorial assistant, video editor, among others. Now, Christian Siee studied media economics with a focus on film and TV at the Stuttgart Media University and gained various experiences in film and television, including at Warner Brothers and Bavaria Fiction in Munich. Now, as a Fulbright scholar, Christian went to Los Angeles, California to study film and worked back in Germany at the German public broadcaster SWR Stuttgart. And in 2022, Christian graduated with a master's degree in creative producing at Hamburg Media School with a VFF scholarship. He is a producer at Letterbox Film Production Studio Hamburg. Both Tamara and Christian's graduation film, ISTINA, won the Audience Award medium-length film of the 44th Max Ophüls Film Festival. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome film director Tamara Denic and film producer Christian Siee and their Oscar-qualifying short film, ISTINA, to the show.
Hey,
Thank you. Hi.
good evening.
You're very well. Good evening to you. And I've got to ask, and this one's actually for Tamara. So, what was it about the screenplay of this film written by David Lawrence that inspired you to want to direct it?
Well, I was inspired before there was even one draft of the screenplay. So we had a one-pager about the photojournalist, the female photojournalist, about fake news and demonstrations. And this is such an important topic, and I felt immediately attached to it. That it started even before the screenplay was written.
Really? Now, how about you, Christian? How did you come across this screenplay?
Yeah, we read a first one-pager and we all felt really attached to the topic because it's just a current issue. And personally, I have a really good friend actually from Colombia that left his country as a journalist. So I felt a really strong connection to the topic through one of my best friends actually that gets also threatened as a journalist.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask that question here in a moment because this film is so vitally important in today's time. And for the overall film itself, and tomorrow, if you want to answer this question, what is this film actually about?
So the film is a story about a photojournalist from Serbia that is being attacked because of her work by right-wing extremist groups. And when the attacks even hit her family, she needs to make a strong decision to protect her little daughter. And she flees with her to Germany, to Hamburg. But she soon has to realize wherever she goes, hostility and threats follow. So it's about the raising attacks against media professionals worldwide, which we can see. And of course, Hamburg, Germany, because we live there, we study there. And Serbia, because I have family and have my roots in this country. So, and with such a topic, it's important also to we really wanted to build a bridge to another European country and not only tell the situation in Germany, tell about the situation there, but also in Serbia.
Yeah. You know, your film shines a light on the work of journalists, photojournalists, just what they need to do to get the story. Now, did either one of you, did you interview, Christian, you kind of alluded to this just a moment ago. Did you interview journalists who are on the front lines of, let's say, protests and riots? And if so, what did they tell you?
Yeah, definitely. We did a lot of research and it was really important to us to be authentic and tell a story. So you can also say that actually everything in the film is a direct reference to something that's happening, people out there, and there's a straight reference to everything. And we talked to journalists in Serbia, but also in Germany, that told us their situations, their stories, and all this went into the script. And there's especially one photojournalist from Belgrade, actually, that went to this pro-Russian protests and got almost lynched for his work. And there, yeah, people like him that really inspired us and made us continue this project and tell this story, because that was a big motivation to us to give these people a voice.
Do today's journalists feel that they are unjustly criticized about their work? Because the general public today, especially in America, do not believe that most of the journalism is actually true. And they keep leaning more towards it being more of like today's media is an extended arm of government propaganda. What say you?
That's a big issue also in Germany, like the raising skepticism against journalists or the media, and they're raising fake news and so-called alternative media. That's a thing, that's a topic which is really concerning, because there are countries in the world where it's the truth that they are controlled by the government, like in Serbia. 95% of the media is actually funded by the government, so it's controlled by the government. But this is definitely not the case in Germany and not the case in the US. So and this is something what I think it's really concerning. Of course, I can tell, especially like in Germany, of course, in history, there were maybe some scandals that already happened, which is so sad for everyone in the industry when something turns out that some journalist didn't do his job right or spreaded something that was not the truth. So, but it's really hard if it's sort of if you take this as an example for everyone. So yeah, and it's concerning. It's concerning, and it's also in times of social media and deep fakes and fake news. I can understand also the confusion in the society and the fear what to trust. So I can understand that, but it's so important that we do not project our fears on those people who work for us and who deliver the news every day, and it still should be possible for them to do at least their jobs. So
Yeah, let me ask you this, Christian. Did you, by researching journalists and photojournalists, did you research the differences between journalists and photojournalists that are working for a media versus those that are freelance journalists? They may be selling their pictures or selling their stories to a media outlet. Was there a difference in the way that, not that they were not in a different way of doing their job, but maybe the way that they're perceived by either those at a protest or by the public in general?
Well, I think generally it really depends maybe on the media, how their experiences are on the protests. But generally, they of course both experience threats and threats by those people. A big difference maybe is the protection on those protests. Of course, if they're working for bigger media, they maybe have like security that's paid by this big company, big media behind them. Especially freelance journalists, for them it's really hard because they don't have the security maybe, and they have to take all those risks for themselves. And so this is definitely a big difference. But of course, both of them experience the same threats because.
As I was watching the film, and I had to go back a few times to watch certain scenes, and especially where Jelena was in the midst of covering a story and being threatened. And I paused the film and I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, why would they be attacking her? Because in some protest or riots, those people who are participating in those elements want the press to see the truth. Those that may be doing something or participating in a way to where they may not want the press to print the truth. So I'm thinking, when she's photographing the protest and these riots, and then she's bullied or she's attacked or threatened to be attacked, I'm thinking, what is their motive? What is their thought? So within this film, Can you kind of give us a little, is there a deeper meaning coming from the attackers as to why?
Well, the thing is that, of course, we have a 30-minute film, so it was not possible in 30 minutes to make a psychoanalysis about the protesters. So our focus was the threats to her as a journalist and what it means for her and for her family and for her daughter. So, but as we experienced the demonstrations that we refer to, they were definitely skeptic and totally against the press. So everyone, even we, our DOP, André Stahlmann and me, we went to two major demonstrations against the COVID measurements in Germany. And as soon as we put out the camera, we were marked as the enemies. So, and this is everything, our experiences that influenced the film, and also having the research and talk to so many journalists, photojournalists that work in Germany and that went to those demonstrations. They told us the same, because they are working, they are the media, they are the government, so they are the liars. So
okay, so let me back up here, because you went to a COVID demonstration and
against the measurements in Germany. Yeah.
Okay, so was the demonstration against the lockdowns? Was it against the vaccines? Because then that means that if anybody showed up with a camera, they're automatically marked as press. And we know on a global scale, the press was highly responsible for pushing the narratives of the lockdowns, of forced vaccinations. So I can understand that if somebody pulls a camera out and immediately looks like a member of the press, I can see where the attack would come from.
Well, but that is not an argument to beat people up that they end up in hospital. So I'm sorry, they're doing their jobs. And if this is an open demonstration, the press is needed there and they need to do their job. So it cannot be, if you feel concerned about this is your thing, but you're not supposed to verbally or even physically attack anyone, and not a journalist. It doesn't make any, so for me, sorry, I don't see any excuse there in this kind of behavior. And I don't know. I think also we are not talking about the corona measurements in our film. This is not
not at all.
I was just about. So I just said that we got inspired because those demonstrations against the measurements in Germany, they're really violent for journalists. And that's why we went there also for research, to join also photojournalists and to see how they work with their security together.
Yeah, what I loved about this,
this is nothing that we that is the focus in the film.
No, not at all, not at all. I was just using that as an example because of the fact that as Jelena shows up at these protests and the way that she's treated, the way that she is viewed. And I love the fact that you bring forth this film because, across the globe, and I hear this from everyone, we need to have freedom of speech. And then there's the other side, the freedom of the press. And a lot of people today, where let's say 10, 15 years ago, if you said freedom of the press, everybody goes, oh, yeah, we need that. Now, there's a whole different side of it. And, how far is, we need freedom of the press, because now, both of you have seen, even online, the rise of citizen journalists who are risking their own life to bring forth truth and to bring forth real stories that maybe the media is not covering, and maybe in some places are not covering correctly. So I applaud both of you for bringing such a very powerful film with a very powerful message.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Now, I have to say, as I was watching the film, I loved the cinematography, because as you're watching the film, it's almost like you're almost watching part documentary, because the topic is so real. It's today. We're dealing with this very topic right now. So I had this feeling of a little bit of documentary. Was that done on purpose?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. That was part of the concept that I worked on with the DOP. That, of course, we got inspired by journalists that are going to real demonstrations. We even shot our documentary, a short documentary in Germany. So this was concept of the film, to make it authentic, and also the format that we choose, that is close to a photo format. So yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
in the screenplay, was the main character originally a woman?
Yes.
Yeah.
And see, I love that, and I love the way that you casted this part, because she comes off extremely strong, stubborn, hard-headed, because she believes in getting the story and then getting the story out. So I love the strength that she portrays in this character.
Yeah, and it's maybe not only the story, but for her, it's we have to show the world what is happening, and if we do not exist anymore, who will do it? So, and as she even says it in the film, it's I'm doing this job when she has a phone call with her mom, that my child can grow up in a world where she can believe what's written in newspapers.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I mean, what was the casting process like for this film?
Well, it was intense, of course, because we didn't have enough time, and we needed to find an actress that is, like, as you said, she's kind of stubborn and she's strong, but she also has to have the sensitive side, because this was also our research. You have to become sort of pragmatic, and also to protect yourself when you are confronted with so much hate and violence on a daily basis. You sort of also have a certain self-irony and humor, and to find someone who fits into this role. We actually casted in 8 countries, everywhere where people live that speak Serbian or can do a Serbian accent. And in the end, yeah, she's from Slovenia, Nika Rosman, and she did also the Serbian accent very great. Finding the child was also a challenge, because we shot in August, and in Belgrade in Serbia they shoot so much internationally, and so people were in projects or they were on vacation. It's very common that people go to the Siee, to Montenegro. So there was also a challenge, and we knew with the child that we have to find her in Serbia, because she needs to speak Serbian fluently. And we casted, I think, 10 or 12 girls, and we're super lucky to find Milica Voskanovic. And also the rest of the cast is amazing. The grandmother, Elizabeth Jorevska, is also from Belgrade, and the rest of the cast is from Germany, from Berlin and Hamburg.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, and I would like to add to what you said before, that we decided especially also on a woman, because of course any gender experience may be threats for their work as a journalist. But especially women, the violence is often very sexualized also, like online on the platforms, hate comments, all this. So that's why it was also important for us that's a woman, because their situation is also differently.
And that makes complete sense, because in this film, you portrayed every element of a threat that we see today. Could be a brick being thrown through the window of a home. Like you just said, Christian, the online threats, even, I mean, for the past few years, have literally gotten out of hand. Yeah. Most of the social platforms, they usually have safeguards to protect a person from using certain words, but I think it's based on country to country. You know, here in America, if I went on, let's say if I went on Instagram and somebody makes a post that I didn't like, and I would have made a comment and said, you're really stupid. Something just simple like that. A warning literally comes up and says, do you want to re-edit your comment? Meaning if you don't, it's not going to get posted. But then to see threats in this film, threats of rape, sexual assault, we're going to kill your kid, all this kind of stuff. And this stuff gets by on a lot of these social platforms in other countries. And even though I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of the press, I think that physical harm needs to be blocked.
Yeah, it was really important to us to tell what's really happening to the people. Like these comments we used were actually like real, and that's why we also decided actually on truth as a title, because it was really important to us to emphasize that we never attempted to definitely define truth, but rather we believe in an existence of an objective reality, a set of facts and events that a society and we as a global community must confront. And particularly relevant, and that's particularly relevant in times of fake news and the conflict zones and during those demonstrations. That it's important that those journalists go on these protests and do their work, that we as a society are aware of what's happening out there. And because if they don't do this anymore, and that's what people told us, they like maybe have partner, kids, they don't want to take the risk anymore, they can't do it anymore. This really concerns us, what this means for us as a society and our democracies. Yeah.
How, with the journalist and the photojournalist that you researched and talked to personally, how do they handle the threats? Either in person and even the online threats. Do they kind of not? I guess in person you can, but even with online, do they mentally just block it out, or they just not read the comments?
I think there are different ways. Of course, some of them read them and report them to the police, which most of the time you can't do anything, like not much about this. Then they stop reading them, of course. But sometimes it's also where I can see, of course, I think if I would be in their position, I can understand that they still continue to read them, because maybe that gives you also a certain security to know, okay, what are they writing? Can I handle this? Sort of, I don't know if this makes sense, to sort of, even if it sounds paradox, to sort of self-protection, and but I think there are different ways. One way is also, I think that it's so important that they communicate with each other, that they have safe spaces. We also went to one, it was kind of a workshop how to report about right-wing groups, extremists, or parties, and how to handle this. And one, of course, big topic was also how to handle the threats. And I think this is so important that they also support each other. And of course, they need the security from the police, because in Germany there is many times not enough police presence, and they are not, how to say, educated enough how to handle with the press. So there were situations where they made the situations even more complicated, that they didn't want to let them through I don't know, their security line, whatever, so they couldn't do their jobs, or taking the press document, like the press ID card, which is also not secure if someone can read your address where you live from the demonstrators, and can threat you directly and stuff like this. So I think the police in Germany really has to be more educated about this topic and how to secure journalists, but also, of course, the media houses that are working for, they need to provide securities.
Yeah, I saw that in the film where she ends up with a bodyguard. And there's a scene in the film where she's looking at her phone, and you understand that she's reading threats.
Yeah.
And then the gentleman in the film, maybe her boyfriend, maybe not her boyfriend, but he becomes very concerned for her safety. But Jelena seems to it's almost like she puts up a slight wall to kind of mentally separate herself from those threats, because she's still focusing on getting the story out.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think this is something you need to do to be able still to continue this job. And that's what I said before, having a certain humor. The scene that you're talking about, she's even making fun of the names that they have, like on the comments. So, and this is, I think, something also how to handle this mentally.
I think what's true for a lot of journalists is, of course, they have a kind of idealism that they approach their situation positively. They see the big picture. They know what they fight for, and I guess humor is a big part of it. I remember also when we talked to a journalist that got big headline in Serbia saying like, "Oh, she's a German spy and would lie and all this stuff." This is not funny, but of course you kind of laugh about it because it's so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Tamara, your directing of this film was superb. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you.
I felt emotion in every scene. And in a way, you're almost sitting at the edge of your seat through the whole film. And the biggest surprise of this film to me was that it was almost a half hour long. Did you feel that being a short film, did you think that you may have gone past the threshold where most of them maybe not go past 16 minutes, maybe not even go past 20? And this one's what, 26 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, actually, from our school, we had a restriction before it's 20 minutes, but obviously, all of the films that turned out this year, all of the 6 films were almost 30 minutes. So yeah, I think because the scripts were 30-minute scripts. So and of course we also when we had the first rough cut, we had 37 minutes. So we had to cut 10 minutes. So but this was also a good exercise, I would say, to stay focused and what's really the core and the heart of the story and of the film.
Well, see, that's why I love short films so much, because you can tell a story, almost a complete story in a very short amount of time. It's very, very focused. Where it's sometimes some of these short films that I watch, sometimes I feel that after it's over, I'm like, it almost seemed like a 2-hour movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes back to the writing, the directing, the producing, and the cinematography of bringing the films to life. But this film is probably one of the strongest that I've seen this Oscar season.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. It means so much to us.
No, seriously, because, so many of the films, there's a lot of fiction, you know what I mean? Where this one, there's so much, there's so much truth to it. I mean, every scene is authentic. It's the truth. It's what's happening today. The audience, like me, you can feel yourself in Jelina's shoes. You feel for her daughter, which is that's one of the things that I love. You take this really strong, headstrong, stubborn, focused woman, a photojournalist, but then you add the character of the daughter, which brings in the vulnerable side, the soft side, now, even though she's out in covering these stories, facing potential danger, but at the same time, she has to protect her own daughter from that danger. So there is this catch-22 that she's dealing with of wanting to be the best journalist that she can be, delivering the story, but then she has to come home, and it's almost like she's doing the opposite in a way. And she was perfectly cast. The daughter was perfectly cast.
Thank you.
She's amazing.
And for you, Christian, a lot of people who are lovers of film, they understand what a director does. Can you kind of walk us through what the actual job of a film producer and what you do and what you did along with Tamara to bring this film to pass?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, the producer is a combination of like all economical, financial questions, like the organizational part of the film, like shooting in two countries, all this like contracts and all these things. But of course, working really closely with the director, so with Tamara, and our writer, of course, David, from the beginning, when we had the first draft, research to the casting process, to like music composition, post-production, editing. Like, I'm just, as a producer, involved in every creative step also, and was a really close collaboration with the team, with David, our writer, with and Tamara, our director. And so yeah, I would say it's a combination of both of those things. And especially shooting abroad was, of course, for me as a producer, a really big challenge, but also great experience, of course, shooting in Serbia, a country I've never been to. I don't speak the language, but finally we were able to do it.
Well, let me ask you this, Christian. For you, with this particular film, what was the most difficult part to overcome?
I think one, of course, getting the budget together to be able to shoot in two countries, especially in Serbia. And another one was definitely our protest scenes to make this possible with the extras and all for all departments. This was a big challenge. Finding a location we could shoot violent right-wing protests because the city didn't like us to shoot it in the city. So this were like the biggest challenges with the project, I think. And thinking that we all want this really be authentic and believable. So even when we're student film, we knew that if we tell this story in this topic, we really can't mess it up. We really have to be believable. So I think it was a big challenge, expectation to our own work to make this possible.
Well,
That's
I have
true.
to say, because when I was watching the film, and especially when you catch the background scenes of the protest, I literally thought, as an audience, that the protests were real, that you were able to maybe bring in a film crew and, let's say, film your scene on the outside of an actual protest with other actors. Maybe like the three guys. I call them the three bullies
Mhm.
in the first part of the film. And so I have to say, excellent job when it comes to making the protests authentic. Because I actually wondered, are they real or did they actually stage that? So excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank
Well, I have to admit, of course, then they were staged. We had like 20 or 30 much too nicely looking extras. We were so happy that they were there, but they were like students. So that was a challenge to make it realistic. But as I said before, the DOP, Andre Steinmann, and we went to two major demonstrations, and I recorded the sound. And we could use the real sound for the film, which I think also helped so much to create the illusion of a real demonstration.
Well,
you.
for you, Tamara, what was the most difficult thing to film?
Um, I think like ch- one of the most challenging things were definitely the demonstration scenes. Also, we worked with stunt coordinators, with stunt fighters. We had a night shoot, which was really intense, but also like the staging and also seeing my main actress Nika, who did all the stunts herself, doing it again and again. Like, oh my god, she has to fall again. And yeah, so it was challenging, I think, for everyone, I would say. um it's hard for me to say. I mean, this is filmmaking. It's always like this, that filmmaking is Murphy's law, that everything that might go wrong will go wrong. For example, we had the shooting in Serbia, and it was in summer. So the first days we had 3 days of shooting officially in Serbia, and the first 2 days were like, I don't know how to say this in Fahrenheit, but it was hot summer, dry, hot. We were in the apartment, and then the third day was the only day we had outside locations to shoot. And of course, exactly on that day, it starts to rain. So it was a thunder and flashes, and even one flash hit like, I think, 20 meters away from us. So we were kind of also lucky that the flash didn't hit us or our technic stuff. So this is something, it sounds so crazy and almost unbelievable if I tell this, for example, people who are not filmmakers, and if I'll tell these filmmakers, they were like, yeah, I have a similar story. So yeah, so this is everything is kind of challenging always, and also having lack of time. And in Germany, they're really strict with shooting with a child. You are only allowed to shoot 3 hours with a child. So we had to use 2 cameras also to be more efficient. And in Serbia, they are more, how to say, you have they're more flexible with the time. So there are many challenging things, but in the end, I think the demonstration scenes were the most challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem that they definitely would be. And I'm not going to give
Also in
the.
the edit. Yeah,
Oh,
also in the edit. The editor and did also a great job. I think we only edited them, I think for over a week, only the demonstration scenes. So, yeah,
well, they came across absolutely authentic and real. Now, I'm
thank
not going to
you.
give the ending away because I don't want to spoil the
Spoiler.
film for those who have not seen it yet. But I have to bring up this scene that I love so much. And I love that scene where her daughter, Laura, I love the fact that she loves taking pictures. She wants to be just like her mom. And I felt that in that one particular scene towards the end where the camera is focused directly on Laura. And she has the camera in her hand. And you just feel that scene. And you can feel as if the daughter is going to be walking in the very shoes that her mother has brought forth through her journalistic career. And that scene, to me, here you have all of these protests. You have these threats. And the audience is on the edge of their seat, feeling this intense emotion through this film. And then there's that scene with Laura. And I'm like, wow. I mean, because then it slows down, it becomes soft, and you just, then your whole emotion changes. You know, you may not feel emotionally tense, but you're now focused on, literally the audience just focuses on that little girl. And I find it to be one of the most beautiful scenes in this
Thank
movie
you.
because I don't think you could have finished that film better than that.
Thank you so much. That means so much to us, and I'm also very happy with the end.
Well,
Thank
I have
you.
to ask for both of you, what in the world did it feel like to become Oscar qualified? On top of that, being the sixth film to be Oscar qualified from the Hamburg Media School.
Well, it's a great honor. It's still surreal, kind of, and amazing. I mean, this journey was a dream for the film. So we are flattered, we are honored, we're happy also, and let's see what happens and what turns out.
I mean, we put so much heart, passion, time, energy in this project. So everything
Yeah,
what's happening this year is for the whole team a big recognition and it, like a dream come true. Honestly, it's something you maybe dream of before, but that like we won this award and now we actually qualified for the Oscars. I mean, that's surreal. How
that's
Tamara said.
amazing.
Now,
Yeah, and as you said, for the whole team, I mean, it's a student project, so it was based on volunteer work.
Yeah,
So, and that with the student field that we've come so far, that's amazing for everyone who was involved.
yeah.
you
So
know,
who'd have? So now it's exciting that we're like allowed to say now, oh, for your consideration, vote for us. So it's just crazy. Yeah.
I am seeing so many posts, especially on Instagram, for your consideration is what everybody is saying. And I bet it's probably, I guess everybody, and including both of you, going to be very, very nervous when it comes to, that December date when they actually announce the short list.
Yeah. December 21.
I Yeah, I'm not that nervous, to be honest.
I would
I
be
try
very,
to
very
I
nervous.
I try to I try to relax. I think one day
Yeah.
before I would freak out, but now I try, to calm down and say, Tamara, however it turns out, you're fine, you're happy. We already have achieved so much with the film, so lower your expectations. Don't be sad if it doesn't work out, but let's see.
No, I say keep your hopes up.
Yeah.
Believe for the absolute best. You have a stellar film. It rightly deserves to be Oscar qualified. And I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here and say this film has the very right to be Oscar shortlisted because it is one of the most powerful films that I've seen this season. Extremely well done. It is a stellar film. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you get the opportunity to see ISTINA, this is a film that is worth watching because it's what we need to be aware of. What happens to the other side in the areas of freedom of speech and the freedom of the press? What do journalists and photojournalists actually have to deal with when they themselves want to deliver the absolute truth? Okay, not everybody's a liar, but we need to understand that there is another side of this. And in some cases, as this film has portrayed, there can be a very dangerous side when it comes to the freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And Tamara and Christian, stellar job. Stellar job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for the great interview. It was so much fun.
Well, you're very welcome. And I just love talking to filmmakers. And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the replays of our interviews with the top film directors and producers, just like Tamara and Christian, as well as screenwriters, the actors, and so much more on our YouTube channel at Bond on Cinema. And we're also available on over a dozen audio platforms as well. So if you can't watch, you can listen. And again, I want to thank you, Tamara and Christian, for sharing your short film with us today. I can't wait to see what happens when they announce the shortlist. And I hope and pray that they announce your film.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching and listening. And remember, filmmaking is an art. And our guests, just like Tamara and Christian, and our show, Bond on Cinema, is keeping that creative art alive. And as for me, well, I'll see you at the movies.